What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Another Friday, another episode of Why Are We Bullish? We got a killer panel today. Three gentlemen I'm very excited to have. We're going to be running the gamut. Lots of stuff to talk about this week. As always, this is live. Anything can happen, so I defer to my friend Bill here.
We'll do it live. Okay. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. And thing sucks.
If you have not already, please do like, subscribe, share. All those things are super important. Hit that boost button if you are streaming this via Podcasting 2.0. And I am Ben with the BTC Sessions. This is your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.
Before we bring in our guests, let's take a look at where we are in the market right now. This is the bitbo.io dashboard. We're sitting at $19,366 per coin, and a single US dollar will pick you up 5,165 sats. That's a lot of sats for a single dollar. You might want to stack a few of them. 90.87% of all Bitcoin have been mined. In terms of fees, not too bad right now. 4 sats per byte for the next block. If you're willing to wait an hour or more, 1 sat per byte should do you. So not too bad today. Shout out to sponsors of the show, Shakepay.com if you're in Canada. Easy way to stack sats. E-transfers in and out. No deposit or withdrawal fees. Thin spread. If you use the link down below, sign up and purchase your first $100 worth of Bitcoin. They'll give you $30 for free. You get the same deal every time you get a friend or family member to sign up with your link. And you can then shake your phone every single day for free sats. They have a sats back Visa card and tons of other programs to earn you additional sats. So check them out down below. Up next, we have LEDN.io. Awesome guys out of Toronto. And I guess I saw a news story today where they made a bid to it. And I didn't see the exact details, but they made a bid to like purchase BlockFi. I don't think they got it, but they did try to scoop it up, or something was going on there to that effect. Anyways, these guys, I've used them a ton, and they've been super helpful in instances where I have a cash flow issue. I just simply want some dollars, and I don't want to sell my Bitcoin, so I'm able to get dollars to my bank account. When I pay back those dollars, I get back the same amount of Bitcoin. They've got their savings accounts. They've got their B2X. They've got Bitcoin-backed mortgages rolling out across Canada and soon to some select U.S. states. And they have their regular audits. And so you can go in and check all of their regular audits to make sure that everything's in order, which we've learned is important. So anyways, check them out, start.ledn.io/BTC sessions. Bitrefill helps me a ton living on Bitcoin. You can purchase any gift card you can imagine in a ton of different countries with Bitcoin, both on-chain and via the Lightning Network. You earn sats back as you shop. You can earn additional sats back with the referral program. And in the US, they just started rolling out bill payments so they can help you get further onto that Bitcoin standard. Up next, Keystone. One of my regularly used hardware wallets. It is 100% air gapped. You never plug it into anything internet connected. It's all done via QR code, and that just kind of keeps the keys to your money safe and away from the internet. Highly recommend you upgrade to the Bitcoin only firmware. Works beautifully with Blue Wallet, Sparrow, Spectre. Awesome in a Bitcoin multi-sig. Yeah, check them out. I have a full tutorial on them as well. And finally, if you're backing up any important Bitcoin wallet, get in solid steel. Pieces of paper, don't cut it. So BillFodl at privacypros.io has you covered. It just kind of gives you that peace of mind from fire damage, water damage, things like that. So yeah, check them out. With that, I'm going to stop my rambling. I'm going to get my friends in here. I've got Tomer, I've got Nick, and I've got Brad. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Very happy to have you. Let's do a quick round of intros for people who may not know you. Who are you and what do you do? Let's go to Tomer first. A little intro, man.
I'm Tomer, and I create Bitcoin content. I'm the editor-in-chief at Swan Bitcoin, and I write a bunch of stuff on my own as well. And I've made a short film on Bitcoin called Bitcoin is Generation Wealth. And I continue to just try to philosophize as much as I can about the impact that Bitcoin's going to have on humanity through my writing and some of my speaking.
I really enjoyed that film, by the way. It's a fantastic piece. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it for sure. Brad, how you doing, man? Can you give yourself a little intro?
Yeah, Brad Mills. I've been in Bitcoin since 2011 when I came in from excitement about being able to make money running my gaming computer and printing magic internet money, and got super pumped about Bitcoin back then. Started like making businesses and just got down the rabbit hole, and then suffered the historic crash from $30 to $2 and realized like I shouldn't be putting my entire life into this thing. It's a little bit early. So I went back to being a serial entrepreneur, sold half my Bitcoin at $30. I thought I was so smart. I'm like, I timed that market perfectly. So I make a lot of mistakes so that noobs don't have to make the mistakes. And I'm completely open and honest about all the mistakes I made during my 10 years of being in Bitcoin. And what I do now is more just, magic internet money podcasts. I'm an angel investor in like 20 different Bitcoin companies. And I'm just trying to do my best to support Bitcoin culture and kind of like stay solvent.
I love it. Well, dude, I'm
While
glad to
doing
have
that.
you back. Yes, I'm very glad to have you back. And that leads us to Nik. First time on the show, man. I'm very happy to have you. But do you want to give yourself a little intro?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Ben. It's really great to be here. My name is Nik. I'm the author of Layered Money. There it is. Thank you so much. I wrote that book in 2020, published it in January of 2021. And late last year, I started the Bitcoin Layer, which is a research publication that I write on Substack. And we just launched the YouTube channel version of the Bitcoin Layer a couple weeks ago. So now the Bitcoin Layer is a research publication and a YouTube channel focused on research, analysis, and education, focused on Bitcoin and global macro.
That's awesome. I've got to dive a little bit deeper into that because I've seen little bits of it, but I haven't done a deep dive on your other content yet. So very excited about that. Before we get rolling on the show today, I just want to wish everybody, including two of the guys on my panel, a very happy Canada Day. I already see the comments coming through. Bitcoin Xavier. P-Man, he's out there. We've got Sail Dog. He's drinking Molson and doing shots of Canadian Club. Good to see you out there. And actually, big shout out to Bitcoin Magazine. This was a very important one for me, and I was talking about it on the show yesterday. But I was super happy to get a stack of these. The censorship resistant issue, and it details a lot of what went on in Canada here earlier in the year, and the Bitcoin fundraiser that I had a hand in. And yeah, great issue. I'm just working my way through it right now. And yeah, so happy Canada Day. But those watching, if you're unfamiliar, this is Why Are We Bullish? And really simple concept to the show. We go by the 3 R's. Number one, somebody's going to drop a reason why they're bullish. Number two, we're all going to riff on that reason together. And number three, we're going to rotate to the next person until we all get a turn. So with that stated, I'm going to get us started. And I've got a reason for being bullish that is based on an article that dropped earlier this week. I talked a little bit about it yesterday, but I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into it. This is an article put together by Gigi. And he's just such a wordsmith with the way he puts things together, and I love his writing. And yeah, the piece is called "The Words We Use in Bitcoin: Words, Language, Terminology, and Linguistic Attacks." And the reason why I'm bullish here is that he discusses kind of how some of the metaphors and analogies in Bitcoin are imperfect. But he also mentions that we've already have a bit of a historical precedent for replacing some of those imperfect metaphors with new and better terminology. And so in doing so, it helps prevent linguistic attacks. So I just want to kind of go through a couple of the things here. And he talks about some of the terms that we all know. So wallet, a very imperfect term, because if you're in Bitcoin long enough, you realize the Bitcoin is not in your wallet. Your wallet actually holds the private keys to unlock certain UTXOs. And he goes on to say that we've started to already shift some of that language in and around the backups. We used to say things like metal wallets or metal keys, and now instead we're typically talking about seed storage or metal seeds or seed plates. And that's a pretty regular thing. If somebody said a wallet plate, or if somebody said a metal wallet, most Bitcoiners would be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you'd be confused by that terminology. Multi-sig, he talks about vaults, and that makes a pretty clear distinction, or at least pictures somebody in their head. They realize it's kind of a long-term savings mechanism, or it's going to be difficult to move out of there. And then the most recent shift is from hardware wallet to now we're starting to regularly see, or at least we're starting to see the first inklings of the term signing device, which is a bit more accurate in what you're using when you have something like, whether it be a cold card or a seed signer or a Trezor or Ledger. Yes, it holds your keys, but at the end of the day, you're signing and approving transactions or messages with it. So he goes through a lot of this, and then he gets to one of the what he calls quote unquote linguistic attacks near the end, and he's talking about the idea of unhosted wallets. And I think this term is more or less universally hated by all Bitcoiners out there. And so he starts to talk about how we can shift. Basically, we should disavow that term right out of the gate. Like, we shouldn't even entertain that term, because there's no such thing as an unhosted wallet. It's always a wallet that has somebody's keys. It's just a matter of whether you have your keys or whether somebody else has keys, at which point you don't have that Bitcoin. Somebody has more or less offered you an IOU potentially to redeem for Bitcoin in the future. Now, one of the things that I liked when he was talking about this, he mentioned the term, he said, if anything, a wallet should be self-hosted, and self-hosting is not a crime. However, we shouldn't think of hosts in the first place. A wallet does not need to be hosted, because a wallet, as we've seen previously, is nothing but a key, private information, combined with hardware or software that allows you to do something with said key. And so the terms that he used, he really likes the idea of independent wallet, which then would evoke the question, what's the opposite of an independent wallet? Like a dependent wallet, or the way he refers to it here is a slave wallet. And so he is basically getting to the point where we need to shift the language to denote the lack of sovereignty that comes from the term hosted wallet, and not have the term hosted wallet, but refer to it as it is. I like the term independent wallet. I like the term permissioned wallet, or if you want to get down Gigi's rabbit hole, their slave wallet, or just something that denotes the lack of control that you have in those situations. So I guess in opening it up to you guys, I'm wondering if there's one terminology that you see us still using that you'd like to move away from, and two, if there's certain terminology that you'd like to move toward, or any other comments in and around those concepts. So I'll open it up to whoever wants to dive in. Anybody have initial thoughts here?
Sure, I'll jump in. I'm not particularly driven by any one specific change to make, but I keep realizing, and Gigi's article is a good example, that Bitcoin is such a radical invention, and everything about it is so different and unique from anything that came before, that almost any words we use are new definitions of those words. Like I woke up this morning, I think it was probably subconsciously inspired by this same article, and I tweeted, some people say you can't own Bitcoin, others say it's the first thing you can truly own. The problem isn't with Bitcoin, the problem is the technology is so advanced that it obsoletes our words. And I think that that is a big part. And I linked actually to a different article that Gigi had in there. I wrote a short article about what ownership means, but Gigi wrote an article called Inalienable Property Rights, where he talks about the ownership concept in Bitcoin. He says owning is knowing, and that's really different, because someone else could know the same thing as you do, but you're trying to know something that nobody else knows. And so I think a big part of what is important is, and like you do a lot of this through the tutorials and training that you do, is just understanding how Bitcoin works, because it doesn't work. Cars, when they first came out, were called horseless carriages, right? And that sounds a little bit like unhosted carriage, right?
Sounds a lot like unhosted.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And eventually now we call them cars, which is actually short for carriage, because that's where the word comes from. And so the language evolves, and we of course understand what a car is. We don't look at a car and go, oh my God, this is so bizarre. There's no horse in the front and there's some strange thing under the hood that internally combusts, because we've become accustomed to it. And I think that's really the key thing that we're going through. Like, Bitcoin is so new, it's so revolutionary. Most people have never seen it before and they don't understand how it works, but give it time, do a lot of education. And I think all of us here are like big on education in one way or another, and get products going in the market, and then people won't need stuff explained to them quite as much. But it's that, I guess that's where I'd say it's like we've got a lot of learning to do, because it's such a radically different invention than anything else.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to dive in?
I like that a lot. The education is my biggest mission here about Bitcoin. And so when I'm thinking about people that are my readers are more, average investors that have gotten into Bitcoin. That's, I think, the people that are generally reading my material. And when they think about, should I keep it on an exchange or should I withdraw it? They actually understand that that is a thing, and that it's a battle inside for, do I want to take that responsibility and make that decision to withdraw to my own wallet and be, sovereign in the ownership of my keys. And so just that decision itself is something that we have to educate about, because that's the first, because people are buying Bitcoin on an exchange. That's how they acquire it. Then they have to make that additional step. So I really think about just setting up that dynamic that, hey, once you buy it, you have to decide, are you trusting the exchange, because that's a liability? It's a second layer of Bitcoin that has full counterparty risk and full default risk. Or are you going to remove both of those things? And there is no 50-50 unless you actually split your funds 50-50. And so what I recommend is, hey, try it with $5 to $10. Try it, and don't get involved in Bitcoin if you're not going to at least try to do it yourself and withdraw. And let them, and then my point here is that once they download their own wallet, you tell them 5 times, write down your words, write down your words, write down your words, and you drill that in. Once they have to write down their words, and once they actually send it from themselves to themselves and remove the counterparty risk, it is a magical experience. That's what this whole thing is about. And so get them to do that first experience, and you are unleashing the potential of Bitcoin on them and everybody that they know. And, so kudos to everybody that's involved in the education when it comes to that process, because, and it's not my expertise, I mean, in terms of, teaching software wallets and hardware wallets. Seed. I love the metal seed terminology because that is a great way to think about the gravity of what you're dealing with here. It's words that represent ownership, and we have to take that whole thing seriously. So my education effort is more targeted at the investor that's thinking of getting involved in this new asset class.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm thankful that we have all kind of segments of the education force at work here.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad, what do you think? What are your thoughts around the words and the terminology that we use?
I like Bitcoin Zay's no keys, no cheese as an upgrade to not your keys, not your coins. I love that.
Like
That's why I have my Twitter handle brackets key comma cheese. No keys, no cheese. I love that. It's it's to the point, it's funny, it's an upgrade. People can kind of get it, or if they don't get it, they're like, oh, what does that mean? And then it's easier to explain than not your keys, not your coins.
Mm-hmm.
That's the modern upgrade for that. I also think that in terms of the way that we talk about the Federal Reserve printing money, that's kind of related. It's I've been kind of struggling with that a little bit lately because on Clubhouse, like, we always kind of go back and forth about, like, are we hurting the conversation by not being completely accurate? Bitcoin Tina is a stickler for being accurate with things, and like, he gets mad when we say the Federal Reserve prints money or money printer go burr. But I mean, that it's hard to get away from that meme because that's such a powerful meme, even though it's not 100% accurate that inflation is caused by quantitative easing, CPI inflation at least. But getting into all that stuff, it's if most people don't want to have don't even understand what you're talking about, they don't even understand the difference between asset inflation and CPI inflation. So if you start trying to say well, the Federal Reserve does quantitative easing, which provides liquidity and shores up bank reserves, and it's actually the Congress that authorizes spending of money, but it's kind of a mixture of the Federal Reserve easy money policies and the Congress. I mean, money printer go burr is just such a better meme. And even though it's not accurate to say they're printing money, it's freaking causing problems.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe some macro people would think we're a little bit dumb and naive if we just say money printer go burr, or the Fed prints money or whatever. But I think it's extremely it's a good way to open the door for average people.
Well, and it just kind of, people get the general message of it, which is that the numbers, the money itself, no longer have meaning because they can effectively, like, the ruler is broken. The measurement, the unit of measurement is broken, and you can no longer make accurate economic calculation with the unit that is the dollar, at least for any meaningful length of time looking forward. So, you're right. It's that type of language in and around it, while not nuanced and accurate and detailed, it still gets the point across.
Well, and actually the money vacuum is on right now. It's not even the money printer that's on. It's actually the reverse that is occurring at, which kind of the shift in monetary policy has happened over the last several months as the Fed has stopped printing money and started to destroy it.
Yeah, it's not going burr anymore.
It's not. And it's the
money
opposite.
Printer's broken. It's not going burr.
But it is the whole idea that the Fed creates an infinite amount of money when we're in financial crisis because the dollar denomination is broken does underpin the thesis for a lot of investors to buy Bitcoin, because they understand they need a hedge against their own government currency. And a lot of people then, when they hear that, they think that we live in absolutes where we're all of a sudden going to get rid of the Federal Reserve government currencies and have only Bitcoin, but it's pretty clear that the dollar and Bitcoin are going to coexist for decades to come. And it just is an alternative and a hedge. Some people will take the entire alternative route and go 100% if they're in the right jurisdictions. And over time, we will get jurisdictions that will allow that sort of activity and full denomination. But for the most part, people are going to hedge most of their savings long term in this alternative, and that's how it's going to grow over time. It's just that gradual hedge against everything that currently exists. And it can include the printer meme, because over a long time horizon, it's completely accurate, right? It just so happens that no, technically the Fed isn't printing the money. They create liquidity. The liquidity short up drives asset price inflation, which can drive CPI over a long time. We don't have to get into that when we're memeing these things across. But if you want to get into the nuance, subscribe to the Bitcoin layer. We do dive into the Fed and all these things, because all of that is important too, to think about the business cycle. People that are allocating to Bitcoin, they should be aware of where we are in Bitcoin's price cycles, where we are in the business cycle, before just deciding to DCA or to go all in or to wait.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to round out this topic. I just the last thing I wanted to touch on here is just part of Gigi's conclusion here, which I found to be a nice little cap on the end of the article. He said Bitcoin is a return to sanity, one that is desperately needed in the insane world of QE infinity and negative interest rates. The tragic comedy of our current financial system reads like the introduction to a game show. Whose deficit is it anyway? An economy where everything is made up and the points don't matter. And he went on to say, the points in Bitcoin do matter, as do the words that we use to describe it. Bitcoin is truthful and precise in its speech, and we should strive to be too. So I like that. Again, like he's pointing to the total lack of clarity on anything related to the alchemy that is the current financial system versus the kind of cut and dry, this is how Bitcoin works. And so I like that. I love that we can be or can strive to be precise in our speech in and around Bitcoin. And yeah, I find the idea of examining our language in and around Bitcoin to be interesting and seeing how it evolves over time. So I'll leave that there. I will say, everybody go to dergigi.com, DERGIGI.com. And this is his latest article, and it's definitely worth a read. But with that, I will give us a rotation. We're going to rotate to our next reader for being bullish. I'll give a shout out, obviously, to everybody in the chat, by the way, for being here. Thanks for all of your comments and everything. And I'll try and pull more of them up on the screen since it's we're moving on. So we're going to jump to Tomer now, and I'm going to let you give a little rant on whatever's on your mind, whatever has you excited.
Yeah.
What has you bullish?
What I'm kind of happy about, it's not necessarily something that everyone is happy about, especially if they're on one particular side of it. But I saw one of the comments talked about this great cleanse, and the way that I'd frame it is Bitcoiners say, stay humble. And I think the lesson has been stay humble or get humbled, right? Experience ego death or have your ego slain, and experience like lean into it, go with the flow, align yourself with Bitcoin or suffer the consequences, and then align yourself with Bitcoin. It's too irresistible, right? I don't know if it was you, Brad, or someone else was recently saying it's like the Borg, resistance is futile. And I just it's a nicer word to say it's irresistible, because it's kind of cute as well. But you cannot resist you cannot resist the forces of sanity, as you just read from Gigi, that are finally taking over. And I think that there's lots of people who come to this with this masters of the universe vision. They're venture capitalists. They're deploying capital. They're creating things, and they're not grounded in what they're doing. Like, I think what's so beautiful about Bitcoin is it grounds the financial system in reality and freedom. I just see another comment there, and self-sovereignty, and there are no masters, there are no rulers in it, and you don't get to be a master or a ruler in it. So when you show up with arrogance and hubris, you get slapped down by Bitcoin. And that's, I think, what we've seen in all of these instances of these exchanges and funds that borrowed and lent and got themselves in all kinds of trouble. They were just detached from the reality of Bitcoin. And part of this is education, but part of it is also there's this transition, just like there was from horse-full carriages to horseless carriages. And we could drop the word horseless because it didn't make any sense after a little bit of time. And, and so we won't need to say permissionless money. People say, what the hell were they talking about? Permissionless money. Of course, money is permissionless. How on earth could you imagine that you would need to ask permission, that you would give permission to some 70-year-old lunatic over everybody's money, right? And that's what we're migrating towards. And there's a lot of people who have to learn a lot of lessons. And I certainly don't want to pretend, oh, I know all the lessons and I'm here to teach it. Like, this is humbling to all of us, and it teaches us all that we are not in charge of this thing. And what we have to appreciate is that's a great thing. I'm glad I'm not in charge of Bitcoin. I'm glad nobody's in charge of Bitcoin. That's the beauty of the whole thing. And we're learning that lesson aggressively now. So I'm super bullish about that.
It does indeed humble you. I think all of us have made mistakes along the way, and the Bitcoiners that stick it out are the ones that, they learn from those mistakes. They realize that maybe you don't know everything at all times, and Bitcoin never ceases to be a harsh but effective instructor. That price of tuition with Bitcoin is it can be a steep one, but well worth it. So yeah, I definitely value that. I'll let Brad or Nick jump in there if you want.
Yeah, I've tweeted this morning. It's not the central banks that are the final boss for Bitcoin. It's our own ego, because it is something that has taken so many strong Bitcoin advocates away. They became big, they became important, they actually mattered to Bitcoin, and then they thought they mattered so much that they should have more power over consensus or governance, or they should get more respect, or they feel like they're untouchable from criticism, or maybe they can use the reputation they gained to go and monetize through some other method, and they just take the exit path. And it really is like, it comes down to, are we making money or are we fixing money? And some people choose to make money and fix money, and that's fine. But like, if the ego is too big, then not even too big, but like, if you can't analyze what we're doing, fixing money, and how important that is, and the struggles that are going to happen when this thing is like a religion in a way. This is going to attract, just not even saying like I endorse a religion for Bitcoin, like, or whatever, just acknowledging the reality that it's going to attract people who will like make this their whole life. And it has mimetic like power, like the Rene Girard, I think it is, wrote the book about mimetic theory, and how like religions were used through history to control people, and the psychological things that happen when you get a strong like mimetic desire in a religion or in a whatever. Bitcoin is like decentralized mimetic need, it's just the strangest thing, but it exists. It's a reality. And because we're fixing money, and because this is so important, I mean, if you're gonna hold on to your ego so strongly that you are going to like choose to give up on the mission of like fixing the money, then, you know, like, I guess so be it. But there's going to be plenty more people coming in behind you to pick that torch up and keep carrying it forward. So yeah,
And
Matt's.
Yeah, I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say this challenge when you put your ego ahead of Bitcoin, and you're talking about the people, right? We get called being toxic maximalists who say, "Hold on, check your ego. Nobody's taking charge of this," and this conflict ends up arising, and Bitcoiners get accused of being toxic when in fact they're just upholding the integrity of the system. I think that this is a recurring theme, and I really hope for all the people who put their ego ahead and in the short term haven't been able to check it, that they do find a way to check their ego and that they do find a way to come back. It seems harder and harder the further and further they get away. Like I don't think Nassim Taleb's coming back anytime soon, or Roger Ver, but I'm more hopeful about people who maybe only recently had a skirmish.
On that point, though, I do think that it does make a lot of sense to reject toxicity. I think we should embrace maximalism and reject toxicity, because toxic people don't actually contribute that much to Bitcoin and Bitcoin culture. And it's unfortunately become this kind of disease in Bitcoin culture over the last couple of years, that the meme of toxicity was started just like Bitcoin maximalism was embraced by early Bitcoiners as like, fine, you're gonna try to disparage me and call me a Bitcoin maximalist. Well, I'm gonna embrace that and I'm gonna become a Bitcoin maximalist. And it turned into something that you could be proud of. Well, people were calling us toxic who weren't actually toxic. We were defending from this government or this corporate usurping of Bitcoin with SegWit 2x and the block size wars. They were calling us toxic for fighting in the battle, and people like Giacomo Zucco and Rodolfo and folks like that like embraced the toxic meme just as a kind of troll. But then all these people came in and saw that and thought, well, I guess we're supposed to be toxic. And then this culture of toxicity has kind of grown in Bitcoin. So there is a point to be said that like we should reject toxicity, embrace rational maximalism. And I hope we can continue that.
I have one of I think my most important pieces that I've written, not as important as Bitcoin itself, is called "Bitcoiners Are Not Toxic; They Have Integrity," and I really try to distinguish between what is actually toxic out there and what is integrity. And it is the danger is that people say you're being toxic when in fact you're just upholding the integrity of Bitcoin. And they say, you're not being kind to me. You're not listening to me. Well, you're not compromising. You want 10-minute block times. I want 1-minute block times. Why don't we compromise on 5.5-minute block times? And we're like so uncompromising that we get accused of being toxic in that regard. And I'm trying to point out the distinction between maintaining the integrity of a system that actually is sustainable versus being called toxic. I certainly don't advocate being cruel.
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between, somebody has an idea that would effectively change Bitcoin and change the entirety of how it works, and slapping down that idea early on, being like, that's just not going to happen, or here's why this is a bad idea. Like, you can be concise in the way that you say things. You can fight like hell to protect the protocol and ensure that it is not compromised by, whether it be 80% of the hash or the top 50 Bitcoin companies, or, some idiot doing hashtag change the code or whatever it may be. There's a difference between defending ideas and then just in general being a dickhead, right? Like, just for no reason, just making fun of somebody because you don't like their picture or something, things like that. I find kind of useless. I want to bring up one thing in this vein, and it was okay. So I'm gonna delicately touch on the Nick Carter stuff as of late. And so what I'll say is, I think it's not a problem for people to look at that portfolio and say, I don't I don't find value in this and that and this, and especially stuff that has to do with chain analysis and normalizing that and encourage and basically saying that, oh, you're gonna have to use this, like sentiment like that. Of course, I don't have any problem with people pushing back against that. One of the things I really did like was the way that I saw Ben the Carmen interacting with Nik, because one of the investments that he had listed on his website was for that, whatever the hell the wallet was. But basically it had like the idea was like wallet logins with your keys that also integrated chain analysis and all of this other stuff. So it's like, oh, this is going to be great. You're going to be able to use your wallets, and then you'll be able to turn on these chain analysis things and make sure it's tracked and sanctioned or whatever the hell it may be. And Ben the Carmen was like, hey, Nik, have you heard of LNURL auth, like using a Lightning wallet to log in? And Nik thought it was a pitch. He was like, oh, I'm always open to other pitches. And Ben the Carmen just like genuinely replied, hey, that's not a pitch. This is it. It exists. You can do it right now. And like Gigi, we were just talking about Gigi, but he spun up just like a proof of concept website where you could, with whatever Lightning wallet you're using, in this case, it was Breeze for me when I used it, but it was just, you go to the website, you scan a QR code, and it uses your Lightning wallet, which you can start with nobody's permission. And it uses that specific key associated with that wallet to log you in anonymously, without having any sort of chain analysis, anything like that, without having to give ID, no KYC. It's just, you can use it as a login mechanism without all of the stuff that Bitcoiners are pushing back against. So I love seeing that type of information being brought forth. And that's what Bitcoiners tend to point to is, you don't need this and that and this. This is possible without the additional draconian measures tacked onto it. So I don't know, in the realm of what we're talking about, Bitcoin checking your ego and everything, Bitcoiners assist with that as well. And some do it in different ways, but I appreciated Ben the Carmen's approach there when he was talking about it. He also was asked, I saw an interaction and they were talking about chain analysis, and it was to, I'm pretty sure, Ben the Carmen, that Nik said, like, you're gonna have to use this with your company. And Ben the Carmen basically said that he would quit if it came down to that. So, in that line of integrity, I appreciate that. So
yeah, there's a lot there. We should probably move on to the next one. But yeah, egos are getting put aside, and that's a positive thing. And Bitcoin continues to move forward without being compromised by anybody else's ego. And it's sad when we have to pay a price of someone who has been a big contributor, finding themselves at odds with Bitcoin itself and those in the Bitcoin community who are holding fast to its ideals. And people say, oh, it's a price we have to pay. We have to slay our heroes. You can understand, it's not just this unnecessary sacrifice. It's simply this reality check that that Bitcoin does not exist if it is in anybody else's control, whether that's a government or a highly influential individual or some corporation. And every one of these conflicts that we've had over the years, going back like through the block size wars and things like that, it's always been people with big egos trying to say, we know what's good for Bitcoin, and Bitcoin saying, leave me alone.
Yeah, absolutely. Nik, is there anything else you want to tag in here before we rotate?
Sure. Well, there are separate missions here, and someone like Nik is someone I know. He's a friend. He helped me with Layered Money. There are people that are working on this decentralized open monetary network and focused on that mission alone. So the context is, I wrote a piece called Bitcoin and Crypto Aren't the Same. That's my way of trying to explain to readers that Bitcoin is one thing, crypto is another, because it's all companies trying to do things. Bitcoin is not a company. It's not trying to do anything. It just is. And those are separate things. And Nik has been a great advocate for Bitcoin. He also engages in crypto activities. I think that's what he was trying to say. And, he's welcome to do those things. He's also been a great advocate for Bitcoin. I point people to his energy pieces and have for a long time. And I think he's incredibly eloquent. So Bitcoin and crypto are not the same thing. People that are focused on 100% Bitcoin sometimes take it personally that people are not focused 100% on Bitcoin. I'm one of those people. There are people that I'm friends with that are not 100% Bitcoin. They're still my friends. And, that would be my 2 cents on it, my 2 sats.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I mean, I guess you could differentiate as well between, somebody that is doing, dealing with private equity on the side, as opposed to like shilling the coins of the week or something on a podcast or whatever it may be. But I think people are more than welcome to scrutinize, but whatever.
And listen,
whatever.
people that invest in companies that are trying to do things that are ancillary Bitcoin technologies or use Bitcoin and other things, it's not. I don't think that that's the villain, right? Shitcoining and trying to confuse people and drive them into non-Bitcoin things. That's wrong, right? I've never seen that from Nik. And so I give him the benefit of the doubt in that that's his professional life. That's what he's doing. He's investing in companies.
Mm-hmm.
I got his back. I think Nik's a good guy, and I think that he's he has a professional life and he's passionate about Bitcoin and loves Bitcoin and wants to see Bitcoin be a big part of our world and our society.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mostly sat this one out and just kind of it's like I don't need to dive further into too much drama. But my Bitcoin Twitter feed has been very much like a TMZ or something the past few weeks. So
yeah, it's like we're at the despair/depression phase of the Kugler beef cycle or whatever. Like, it is, whether it's based on like price capitulation or just this. I think we've been in a bear market for a year now. It's just been an odd bear market, and I think we've kind of capitulated through price and probably going to continue capitulating through time capitulation, and that just causes people to like start arguing with each other and get testy. And like, you see Bitcoiners just going after each other. Before the Nik Carter thing, it was like freaking out at Peter for using BlockFi as a sponsor, and like people were even going after Preston Pish and Lynn Alden for like contemplating writing about BlockFi. Like, everybody's just sort of turning on each other. And I saw this happen in January in the NFT and crypto circles, because I'm like a sentiment radar. I like to like I've got my tentacles everywhere, and I'm always trying to gauge where we are in the cycle. And I saw this happening in the NFT space and in the DeFi circles, because a lot of those prices had gotten wrecked even a while back, and it was all wag me, we're all going to make it, like GM for like a year from those guys. And then when the shit started to hit the fan, it was like, wait, are we getting scammed? Like, who's responsible? Like, let's go after. They start doxing people. They start like these wag me folks started really getting crazy at each other, going after each other. So it's just, you're gonna see it all over the place. It's people just frustrated. Like, everybody's getting wrecked. It's like, it's just, unfortunately, Nik's reacting back now, like pissed off and like going after Samson Mao out of character for him. So like, hopefully all this just blows over and we can get back.
Nik went back into his pitch decks and I saw that. I was like, man, Nik is pissed.
Nik was going toxic maxi there for a minute.
He went back into his pitch decks and pulled one thing out to call Samson out. So you're right. It is a sign of the cycle when people start infighting. I mean, I mean, really, it's like,
And all those no coiners, Peter Schiffs are like, yes, right. Go to zero.
Yeah,
We're just entertaining the no coiners. We gotta smarten up here, folks.
yeah. We're still here. We'll make it. But anyways, let's do a rotation. Tomer, I know you're gonna have to drop here momentarily, but I did appreciate your
Thanks for having me. I'll probably drop now. I think it makes sense because if I won't really be able to sink my teeth into the next
no
person's
worries.
idea. So thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the great conversation, guys.
Good to see you, Tomer.
Yeah, likewise. I'll see you
Thanks,
around
Tomer.
soon. Take
Good
care.
to see you as
Bye-bye.
well. Awesome. All right. So I guess Brad, I'm gonna keep it with you. Actually, you know what? With the way that things rotated in my screen, I'm gonna go to Nick now. So sorry if I'm surprising you a bit here, but Nick, I'm gonna go to you. I'm gonna let you chat a little bit. What's on your mind? What's currently on your radar? What has you excited right now?
Yeah, so I do price study. That's my skill set. When I come in, I'm a former bond trader. For people that don't know me, that's the world I come from, the asset management world. And as a trader, you come in, you look at the prices, you make recommendations to the portfolio managers, what to buy and what to sell. And so I'm a student of price. I'm always looking at that. And what makes me excited is that a lot of the overbought conditions that we had when Bitcoin went up above 60,000 are gone and gone completely. So I'm seeing that from, I'm really seeing it from 2 to 3 different angles. And I'll say before I get into those angles that the reason I do price study is not because I'm religious about this indicator, that indicator, and this system. That's not what I'm about. I do price study because it represents behavior of buyers and sellers. That's what overbought conditions are. It's that buyers are weak buyers at the end of a bull market. And then when it bottoms is when the final weak hands have capitulated. And so it's a behavioral study. And so from the behavioral side, it matches up with the technical side, which is that we're in oversold territory now. And that makes me bullish. So it doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't go lower. I don't personally think that Bitcoin's going lower than the current range that it's in, call it 15 to 20 if we're, striking a range. So I'm bullish because I believe that we've bottomed here this year, this summer, sometime before the end of this year. And the 2 to 3 metrics that I'm looking at there. Number one is the good old 200-week moving average. This is, call it a 4-year moving average price of Bitcoin. It's one that has never declined, meaning that over any 4-year time horizon that we look at, each week that average is increasing in price. And that represents this long-term buyer behavior setting a floor for Bitcoin. Right now, we're actually lower than the 200-week moving average on the spot price. That happens sometimes in Bitcoin, and it doesn't last for that long. Bitcoin usually trades at a premium to its long-term average, but because it's so cyclical, it does trade at a discount at some time, and it's trading there now. It's also trading at a discount to its realized price, which is an on-chain metric that looks at basically when Bitcoin is going to and leaving exchanges, not the market price, which is the price on the screen. So when Bitcoin leaves the exchange after someone's purchased it and stuffed it away, that's the realized value of that transaction. We look at all of that across the network and we get a realized price that's in the low 20s. So we're actually below realized price on Bitcoin. That also does happen, but rarely, and doesn't last that long. So, and then, one more technical indicator is just these price derivatives. So one is RSI 20, and a reading of 20 is oversold and a reading of 80 is overbought. we actually were at a 94 on the weekly RSI of Bitcoin when we spiked up to 60 the first time. So bubble conditions on a relative basis. And all of that is unwound. And it's hard to scream sell Bitcoin, because why would you sell Bitcoin? All you have to do is wait a few years for it to crash and then come back up again. So it's not great investment advice to scream sell Bitcoin when it's overvalued, but we should be aware of when it's overvalued and when it might be over. So that's why I'm bullish. I think that we've hit all these oversold metrics, and we're bottoming sometime this year and around this level.
Yeah. The beautiful thing about Bitcoin in general is if you sit through, if you just sit tight for enough time, then all of this noise in between, it doesn't really matter, right? Like the first time I ever bought Bitcoin, it was like at the start of a bear market. So like all I knew were red candles for like a solid year, and then nothing but sideways chop for like another 10 months after that. And so I mean, I still had conviction then, but there was a little bit of that question in the back of your mind of, will this return? Will this come back? And then you sit through another cycle and you're like, okay, well, it's there you go. And then, as soon as you've been through a couple of these cycles and you've kind of seen the highs and the lows and the sentiment shift and the euphoria and then the infighting that happens at the bottom and the craziness all around, and you get to watch, these shitcoins come in and out and basically never reattain previous all-time highs in Bitcoin terms, you kind of get used to it, and you can just sit back and relax and calmly build your Bitcoin position over time, or in my case, just live on Bitcoin. So it's just, it becomes easier the longer you're in and around Bitcoin. It's just, but it is, I will say, as much as it doesn't really matter, it is nice to get a handle on sentiment. It is nice to get a handle on, oh, okay, well, we're kind of getting through the roughest of the rough patches now. Not saying again that it couldn't go lower, but in 12 months time or a year and a half or 2 years from now, I find it highly unlikely that we'd be still flitting around 20,000 per coin. And who knows, I could be totally wrong, but at the same time, like it would be pretty unprecedented in the history of Bitcoin that we would just sit here forever. So again, it's just Bitcoiners have to be patient, and the more you understand Bitcoin, the less you worry about these fluctuations, I find anyways.
And it's really difficult I find it very difficult to try to express to people that you have to think in a 5 to 10 year time horizon. It's almost impossible to get people to do that. So you do have to, I will say from my side, I used to be an incredibly vocal advocate for people that were very near to me about Bitcoin and just preach. But I realized that actually it's only the people that are open to it that will come to you and so that's my method now. And I sit back and I produce written and video content so that people that are interested will find it, because the outward getting people to stretch that time horizon, it's actually, I found it impossible. So
you and me both, actually. It's interesting to hear you say that you've gone from a tactic of like preach to every person to more of a passive, everybody knows that you're into Bitcoin and that you're building resources and educational content. And same with my friends and family and people that I chat with. It's never a secret that that's what I'm doing, but I kind of look for those people that are curious, that are asking questions, and then I focus my effort on that individual or that group of people so that I can best allocate my time and resources for the people that need it and actually want it. And then, you know, that orange pilled person will be off on their own, and they can do the preaching for a while until they have their own method. I find that that's been the most effective for me is, you know, you get that question, you're like, okay, well, I'll sit with you, I'll chat with you, walk you through this, give you some resources. And I don't know, Brad, what about you? Like, are you still a bit of a preacher, aren't you?
Well, I'm definitely an evangelist still. I do my best to try to convince people to buy a ticket to the lifeboat. And recently, actually, like after we dropped below 20,000, I was so convicted that this is the only opportunity that people have in my life to kind of avoid a lot of pain over the next decade, that they should just buy 0.1337 Bitcoin and sit on it till 2030. That I offered everybody on my Facebook like a price guarantee that if they buy now and hold, I'll guarantee that it'll be above 20,000 in a couple of years. And if it's not, I'll pay you your money back. I'm just so I'm like extremely confident that that's going to happen, that I'm willing to like put up 6.15 BTC to for 50 friends or 47 friends to take me up on that offer.
You remind me of that guy from the first season of Billions, where he's like, I am not uncertain.
Yeah, I am not uncertain.
Yeah.
Well, look, I changed my thing there to the rainbow chart. Like the rainbow chart has to hold. The rainbow chart is all, right, Nick?
Absolutely, man.
We can't go below the blue line of the rainbow chart. It's just impossible.
It would literally be impossible. It's just math, guys.
Just pack it in, and if it goes below the rainbow chart, just we're done. Might as well 51% attack it and get it over with. No, I am still, but I don't have the energy to one-on-one with people anymore. That's the thing. Like, it's just so much time consuming. Like, so thankfully there's like all of your content that I've been sending people a lot of your videos lately, because not lately, over the last couple of years, just because people are like, hey, how do I use a hardware wallet? I'm like, oh, I don't have the energy anymore to be doing this, but I really want to stress to people how important it is that they get Bitcoin and sit on it as their retirement account for the next 8 years. So willing to take that bet and make people whole. Cause at this point, like 0.1337 Bitcoin is not a lot of money. I mean, every average person can afford, what's that, like $2,000 or something like that, or you know, whatever. It's 1,700, whatever it is, or 2,300, something like that. That's a rational, reasonable amount that I think if Bitcoin does what we all think it's going to do, that's going to 50x by 2030. So that's going to be significant money for an average person that's going to be basically bankrupt, or like the pensions are probably going to be, there's just like, I can't even think about how 10 years from now things are going to be. It's just so many possibilities of how money could break, how the pension system could break, how the treasury market could fall apart, the dollar could hyperinflate. I mean, they're going to try their damnedest not to have all that happen, but it does seem like the only thing they can do is try to kick the can down the road. Yeah. And it's going to cause problems with people that don't have Bitcoin. So anyways, yeah, I'm still super bullish on evangelizing. And also I'm a seed investor in Hexa Wallet, which I love building these tools for Bitcoiners. So I wanted to build this tool where you could send people Bitcoin, because I'm sure you guys have done this before. Everybody's done this, where you give people $5 a Bitcoin. Is that they're like, what's Bitcoin? You're like, here, I'll just send you some. Like, you want $5 a Bitcoin? Download this Bitcoin wallet. And like countless times this has happened to me over the years, where people come back and that $5 a Bitcoin is now worth $200. And they're like, how do I get that Bitcoin? Like, upgraded my phone. I downloaded the app again, but it's not there. Like, constantly. So there's this feature that I've been longing for in Bitcoin, to be able to be like the Bitcoin Sherpa that onboards people, that does it in a way that I'm not wasting sats. So I can send out $5 of Bitcoin to people, and if they don't claim it, it comes back to me because it's like a permission time thing, right? If they don't
Mhm.
sweep the fund, it's basically like sending them a Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah.
And if they don't claim it, it comes back to me. So then in a year or whatever, this person doesn't care about this Bitcoin, it's back to my wallet and I can use it to send to somebody else and they would have lost it anyway. And there's another feature using BIP85 that we were coming out with where you can, we have a, like you as a Bitcoin, the Bitcoin guy in your circle can have the master seed phrase.
Yes.
And then we have it so that you can create wallets for all your friends and family and they have a seed phrase, but they don't get access to your Bitcoin, but you can restore their Bitcoin for them when they frig up and when they when they lose their keys.
BIP85 is so powerful. I did my like in-depth cold card tutorial a couple weeks back and I dove into the BIP85 stuff. And it's like, yeah, you basically have like a parent seed, and
Yeah.
then you can derive all these up to like 10,000 child seeds from your one parent seed. And yeah, they can't reverse engineer with their own seed phrase and back up to get the parent one, but you can always regenerate as long as you know the number to count of which one it was. You can regenerate that seed, no problem. And that's massive. Like the use case
So
that you're
that
talking
wallet,
about,
it's called Keeper, and it's coming out soon. It's going to be separate from Hexa Wallet because we had a bunch of drama with Hexa Wallet where there was like an insecure sort of process at the beginning. People could choose a password and it was easy to guess. If you had your iCloud leaked or whatever, someone could easily brute force it. You could lose your savings in that rare scenario. But so we redesigned it so that it doesn't have that vulnerability anymore. It's more like a security trade-off, but we decided to separate this out because I think this social Bitcoin onboarding thing is extremely important to get the next like billion people onto Bitcoin. We are the Bitcoin people, you know, like in our circle, we're known as the Bitcoin person. And I already know, like, I'm already holding a bunch of seed phrases for friends that have like $200 of Bitcoin or $1,000 of Bitcoin or whatever. So this is just going to make it so much easier now as people that do that, we can just have one master seed phrase and not have to worry about all that. And then you can be like the Sherpa for all your friends and family that are trying to own like a little bit of Bitcoin.
I love that. Nick, have you played with anything BIP85 related?
No, and that sounds awesome. And I'm super guilty of being behind on my BIPs as I'm trying to build my research, stuff. And but I will say that I've designed my own wallets, and I think wallet design, like designing your whole wallet infrastructure, how you generate seeds, how you store seeds, it is so interesting and important to understanding the power of Bitcoin, the power of what we can do with the technology. So I am going to, the Bitcoin Sherpa idea, I love that. I'm going to think about how I can be a Sherpa for my friends and family. And
we got to do it, man. Like
yeah,
we got to this price drop, like you said, Nick, it's bullish because not only has it flushed out a lot of the toxic leverage and over leveraged bubble nonsense, it also is like a shuttle stop for a bunch more people to get on the Bitcoin life, like the Bitcoin shuttle that's taken us to Satoshi's Ark. Like every price drop that we get like this is another shuttle stop to put more people on that shuttle. And thankfully we can see that, like with Glassnode doing their on-chain identity clustering and stuff like that, you can see that the people that hold 0.1 Bitcoin, it's continuing to increase. Every time there's a price drop, the people that own 0.1 to 1 Bitcoin, the numbers keep going up and up and up. So that's another thing that makes me bullish. It's not only has the leverage come out, but also people recognize that. They recognize that, like, this is a good opportunity for me to finally, I'm going to get some Bitcoin.
well, actually, if somebody asked me about what I think about Bitcoin, I gave them this long answer about price and all that. And they're like, wait, so your whole analysis is technical? What about the fundamentals? I'm like, there's 200 million people that are exposed to Bitcoin today. That number was probably 100 million a couple years ago. and is increasing every single day in an exponential fashion. That number never decreases. Okay. The price goes up and down, but the actual number of people using and getting onboarded to Bitcoin never decreases on a net basis. So how can you not be bullish?
That's
about
super bullish.
an adoption curve like that? That's the only, they're like, what's the fundamental? Do you need another fundamental other than 200 million people increasing every day?
Yeah.
I also just want to comment that another reason why Hexa Wallet hasn't been super popular, I think, is because it's been confused with Hex Coin. Somebody in the chat was asked about Hex Coin, not a wallet for the Hex Coin.
Yeah, no.
So we're changing the name. It's going to
Name
be
change.
Keeper. And also it's going to be 2 separate wallets. And like one of them will be like the Vault, the Sherpa wallet that you can help onboard your friends and family to help that 200 million go to 1 billion.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's super awesome. I'm excited. And there's so many cool things that are happening in Bitcoin right now, even just from like a back end kind of technological perspective and being able to play around with everything. It's amazing. But we'll wrap this topic here. We're going to do another quick rotation. I think, Brad, it's your turn. So I'll keep it with you. What are you excited about? What are you bullish on? What's on your mind, man?
Yeah, let me actually share my screen. I'll do a little
if you share it, it'll give me a pop-up and I'll approve it.
Okay. Does that work?
I'm looking for it. I don't see anything yet. Let's see.
Oh, never mind. Lost permission. Okay, never mind. I'll just talk about it.
Or you can if you put in the private chat the link, then I can pull it up.
Oh, I have like a whole thing of like links.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I got
if you want anything up there, just drop the link and I'll pull it up. But yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So it's kind of actually going off of the Nick Carter space that we did like a couple nights ago, and you know,
thanks, Yellow.
one of the things that Nick said, which kind of I don't really agree with, was that there's going to be a lot more multi-chain stuff that Bitcoin companies are going to capitulate to. Like they're like, look, to be honest, like there's significant network effects that these crypto guys have built over the last couple of years, especially over the last in 2021 with A16Z and all these high net worths like being shepherded in by Raoul Paul and Mike Novogratz and all these Asian funds building Ponzi schemes and stuff. Like they've put hundreds of billions of dollars into propping up the network effects of DeFi. And they've built multiple layer 1 chains. So in a way, like it's actually been good for Bitcoin in that it's prevented Ethereum's network effects from being too strong, because all these guys are VCs and they start understanding, well, if the Ethereum did it, I can do it. And I'm going to launch Solana and I'm going to like do it, but faster and like, you know, do my own pre-mine. And then they launch Avalanche, like Emin Gun Sur, who used to FUD Bitcoin, like has launched his own chain, Avalanche. And like 3 Arrows Capital is one of the big seeders of Avalanche. And that contributed to weakening network effects of Ethereum.
Pause, hold on.
Yep.
Because you were just talking about 3 Arrows Capital. This literally just dropped not long ago. Anyways, they allegedly filed for bankruptcy in New York.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
So just today. So yeah. Anyways, continue.
Yeah. So like if we had just had it be Bitcoin versus Ethereum and all of that hundreds of billions of dollars of money and infrastructure went into just building up Ethereum, then man, it would have been tough. We would still probably be like in the zone where we'd have to worry about a flippening. Like we'd have to worry about it because they could have actually pumped Ethereum over Bitcoin's market cap at some point. But now it's like, I'm not worried about that at all. It's the bear market. Like the bubble nonsense is gone. It's going to be continually bleeding against Bitcoin. It's nothing but pain for the flippening narrative and DeFi in a bear market. In a bull market, when it's a bubble, when the Fed is keeping interest rates low and we got quantitative easing and everybody's making money everywhere and risk assets are like going up like nonstop up only mode, well, then we have a risk of Bitcoin losing #1 spot in market cap to a stable coin or Ethereum because of these VCs and this like these traditional money guys. And that's why I do think that this is still a war. Like a lot of people think the block size war is done and, you know, like we're not in a war anymore. I think we're still in a war. Like the war is with not just central banks, but it's with the VCs. It's Silicon Valley VCs and Wall Street, because they're all kind of like in bed together. The central banks, Wall Street, Silicon Valley VCs, kind of all trying to amplify the network effects of other things. And thankfully, we had all this fragmentation and balkanization in the multi-chain world. Because if we didn't have Solana and Avalanche and Phantom and Harmony and Cosmos and all these other layer 1 blockchains that do DeFi stuff and NFTs, if we didn't have that, all that energy would have went towards Ethereum. But thankfully, we had the like success of Binance Smart Chain and Solana. And because we had that, it actually showed like there was a flippening, all right, but the flippening was there was more users on Binance Smart Chain than Ethereum. There was more transactions on PancakeSwap than Uniswap. It's cheaper to use Solana. Like there's so many more things that got flippened in this 2021 cycle that really hurt the ETH maxi narrative. And stock to flow ratio getting destroyed actually helped institutional investors that got sold the stock to flow ratio. That actually helped them realize that the ETH narrative is even more bullshit than the stock to flow ratio narrative they were fed, because the stock to flow ratio was being sold heavy to high net worths and institutional investors in the last cycle. And then the Ethereum crowd decided they wanted to weaponize the stock to flow ratio by changing the monetary properties of Ethereum with EIP 1559 to burn fees and make the stock to flow ratio of Ethereum go lower than Bitcoin, so that you could say it's ultrasound money and it's a better store of value and it's better than Bitcoin. Well, what happened was the stock to flow ratio got invalidated, because most of us were saying like Bitcoiners were saying, like, that's just a meme. Like, it's not what makes Bitcoin valuable. Like, don't trade on that. Don't believe that. Some of us were obviously like drinking the stock to flow Kool-Aid, but a lot of us were like, look, that's not what makes Bitcoin valuable. It's not a valid model. And the Ethereum people started to parrot it and say like, well, this is why Ethereum is better, because our stock to flow ratio is low. So what they ended up doing was sacrificing monetary policy. They no longer have long-term credible monetary policy because they tried to make their monetary policy better than Bitcoin's. So they did a centralized intervention in the monetary policy to create a lower stock to flow ratio than Bitcoin had. The stock to flow ratio got wrecked on both Bitcoin and ETH, and now they're just left with weaker monetary policy. So it's almost the best way that this could have came out was institutional investors that got sold that narrative now realize that was bullshit, and they're selling ETH, and like ETH has got more pressure on the downside as a competitor to Bitcoin, because now you can kind of, in a bear market, you can think rationally, like, why is Bitcoin valuable? And then why is Ethereum valuable, the ETH coin? Well, it's no longer about all these bubble logic nonsense narratives of DeFi utility and NFT utility. It's really about the monetary properties of Bitcoin versus ETH.
It's because Bitcoin wasn't able to come back and be like, well, we're going to be ultrasound money and we're going to start burning even more big. Like, there was no possibility of even trying that.
So we're seeing like one of the things that makes me super bullish is, unlike what Nick Carter was saying, which like I agree that I'm going to say, like, I'm trying to be a nuanced guy. I'm trying to be less toxic. I'm trying to be less like everything is a shitcoin scam. I'm trying to acknowledge where there may be some good people trying to build like cypherpunk things on other blockchains or whatever. And there are definitely, but like, I don't agree with the way they're choosing to do it. I think it's better to do it on Bitcoin. But his thesis is that, like, look at what's going on. Obviously, there's lots of money and network effects now. Like, MetaMask has 20 million downloads, and that's across blockchains. Like, Axie Infinity had 3 million people download, play that game on Binance Smart Chain. That's not a network effect for Ethereum, but it's like another like 3 million downloads of the MetaMask wallet. And SafeMoon had like 3 million people. Hexcoin has like 300,000 people. So all these different Ponzi schemes and incentivized utility things and games that, some of them aren't Ponzi's, they're just like dApps and apps and whatever. They got a lot of network effects. Like they got a lot of people thinking about building on the EVM. They got a lot of people downloading the MetaMask wallet and getting a private public key pair over there. So to give them their credit, like, yeah, they've got some network effects but thankfully it's not competing with Bitcoin, the asset. It's not, and that's what Nik was trying to say. And that sort of nuanced message gets lost by a lot of us because we just viscerally react to him promoting an altcoin chain. But what he's saying is like, where I agree with him is where he's saying, look, there's network effects over there. There's millions of people that have downloaded these wallets. People are building over there. I'm going to put some money over there. So, okay, sure. You can go put some money over there. What I disagree with him is where he's saying that we're not doing that on Bitcoin and that Bitcoin companies are going to have to start to capitulate to the multi-chain world and going to start adding support for Solana and Avalanche and Ethereum. I don't agree with that because I think that there's a lot of crypto guys, just like us Bitcoiners, do not pay enough attention and think critically and deeply about what's going on in crypto. We only really tend to focus on all the scams because 99.9% of it is Ponzi scams and Ponzi-nomics and a lot of crap. There's a pool of people that are building interesting things over there. And hopefully we can pull that to Bitcoin and integrate on Bitcoin. And people are doing that. So a lot of those crypto guys just look at Bitcoin and they just look at like, oh, Max Kaiser's being toxic on Twitter. That's what a Bitcoin maxi is. And like, that's Bitcoin maxis don't know anything about anything that's going on in crypto. And that means that all the Bitcoiners are going to just be sleeping on what's going on in this multi-chain sort of space and they're going to miss it. And actually, I think it's the opposite because all my crypto friends are completely sleeping on what's going on with Bitcoin. So I just the bear market, every bear market we have creates the like wreckage that's left behind in the wake of the altcoin Armageddons, creates more hardened Bitcoiners. So last cycle we had Saylor and Corey Klippstein and like Breedlove. Like we had Lynn Alden, all these like strong, now currently really smart and powerful network effects for Bitcoin, good thinkers and writers or whatever. All of these people that kind of came in and dabbled with altcoins in the last cycle, they came in either through crypto funds or institutional crypto trading or whatever. And through the bear market realized, wait, this is all nonsense. Bitcoin is where it's at. That's going to happen all over again. That's going to happen right now. And we're going to have so many more strong principled Bitcoiners come from the crypto bubble because they literally did have like 10, maybe even 20, 30 million people came in through the top of the funnel this time through crypto, not through Bitcoin. So I try to look at it like that from that lens, that this bear market is actually like a conversion mechanism to accelerate people to become principled Bitcoin rationalists or Bitcoin capitalists or whatever you want to call it. And yes, of course, some of them are going to get so like butthurt by all the scams they got scammed on. They're going to turn toxic and they're going to join like the pleb toxic pleb movement or whatever. Like, but like, I think we're going to get a lot of strong network effects from this. And I'm already seeing like the one thing that's different this time that I think Nik and a lot of crypto VCs are missing is that, and Nik invests in Bitcoin companies, so he's doing his part. I'm not trying to like bag on Nik here. I'm just saying that this is a common thing I hear from all my crypto friends, that like Bitcoiners are not doing any of this stuff. None of this stuff's getting built on Bitcoin. And it's not true because you got Spiral, Cash App, Square, TBD. That whole group is like hundreds of developers building out decentralized web on Bitcoin stuff. They've got millions of active users, like doing legitimate real stuff. DeFi has millions of active users, but they're doing Ponzi schemes. And it's a bear market now. And the active user numbers are just being eviscerated right now because the tokens are going down in price and the Ponzi's are blowing up. So it's like, if you're getting paid to step, like with that Steppen coin, or if you're getting paid to click buttons to play Axie Infinity, or if you're getting paid to take loans like you were with Anchor Protocol with Terra Luna, you're going to do it. So of course you're going to get millions of people doing that. But in the bear market, actually people start realizing, like, I'm not making any money doing this anymore. I'm going to stop doing it. So they stop. Yeah, it's a cleanse. It is a way for, we're going to see what the real usage is of all this DeFi stuff. And I think it's a lot lower than the TVL numbers and the ETH and crypto people like to say it is. I think it's way lower. But what we have with people building on Bitcoin now is like Cash App and Square. They've got millions of active users, millions of merchants. They're going to, like, money is the biggest use case in the world. It is the biggest use case, and Bitcoin is solving that. We don't have to change our narrative every cycle. We don't have to go from money to like NFTs or DeFi or dApps, it's always been money through every cycle. Bitcoin is money. It's a savings technology. Whether you want to argue about whether it's peer-to-peer cash or store of value, depending on the cycle or when you came in or whatever, I've been in since 2011. It's always been both. It's always been peer-to-peer cash and store of value. And it's never changed. It's been arguing about like whose ego is bigger about what they want it to be, but it's always been that for the last 11 years. So Square is actually like, they're going to integrate Lightning Network and decentralized identities, and they've got distribution. So that makes me extremely bullish that TBD is working on, and they just announced today that it's officially the W3C Council officially made their a decentralized identity standard like the one that's going to be accepted. And Netscape or Chrome and Apple, I don't think it was Apple. I think it was Chrome and Mozilla, Google and Mozilla. I think there was multiple people on the W3C that were trying to stop the kind of Bitcoin focused DID standard. And Tim Berners-Lee came in with his veto power and said, no, it's going to go forward. Like, this is good. Let's let this happen. So that just happened. And like Fuji Money is another thing. I don't know if you've seen that, but this is like the Liquid network. There's teams building decentralized lending protocols on the Liquid network now. Synthetic bonds and stocks and like, you know, putting Tether on to be able to use your Bitcoin and borrow some Tether and things like that. Like some of these interesting base layer things that did get built out on ETH and multi-coin, multi-chain DeFi. It is coming now. It's coming on Bitcoin layers, and TBDEX is doing it. Fuji Money's doing it. We got Taro coming out, which will enable asset issuance, probably not to be able to have things like AMM contract style things on there, but on other layers of Bitcoin, we'll get that. And we've got like Stillmark Ventures, which Elise has been on fire. People should follow her for sure. She's investing in Elise Clean. Yeah, she's investing in all these layer 3 things, like Jeff Booth's new fund, Ego Death Capital. They're investing in all these layer 2 and 3 things. You got 1031. Like there's key management stuff. Like there's this thing that Nik invested in is on, like you said, the LNURL auth, and then Revault is another one that I've invested in, and FTX actually invested in it too, a Bitcoin company, like a Bitcoin only company. Village is a really awesome app that's like Bitcoin for kids. Getvillage.com. And actually these guys were going to take money from Coinbase.
That's
and like
Sat-Centives, right? Yeah.
So like the idea that Bitcoiners are going to capitulate and start integrating with all this stuff, I think it's the other way around. I'm having conversations with entrepreneurs and like Level, LVL.co, like they were Bitcoin and ETH. And I had multiple conversations with them like, dude, like this is money. You don't need ETH and all this Litecoin and all this stuff. Like, let's just do Bitcoin, because I'm a seed investor in Level. And, you know, there's a couple crypto investors that were also invested in Level, and they were like, kind of wanted it to be like, you know, Bitcoin and other stuff. But he made the right choice and he went Bitcoin only. And Village did the same thing. They were going to have money from Coinbase Ventures and these other crypto funds because they want to be able to sell tokens wherever they can sell them. And like I had the conversation with the founders, like, come on, like we're going to be teaching kids to like pull slot machines here. Like, do you want to do that? And the conversation was, it was like hours, multiple calls with them. And they didn't want to do it, but they were like, yeah, but everybody else is doing it. You know, like that. It was kind of that same thing, like what Nick and other crypto VCs, they do push that message that like, oh, it's a multi-chain world, we're going to have to do this. But if you have enough Bitcoiners, like people like myself that are investing in Bitcoin companies, and I like to talk to crypto companies too, because you can convert these crypto companies to thinking properly about Bitcoin with the examples of things like TBDEX and Square and Cash App. When you see other principled Bitcoin companies staying Bitcoin only, then it's a better example for these entrepreneurs to stay Bitcoin only. So, I mean, like I've literally got like 20 of these examples of all these different things that are being built. The decentralized web is being built on Bitcoin. We got to compete better. It's a little bit like further behind than the crypto guys, because they had literally hundreds of billions of dollars funneled towards them from the FOMO of the last bubble, and even the residual FOMO from the 2017 ICO bubble. But we kind of have all this data now. We see what works, what doesn't work, what's legitimate, and what's a bunch of nonsense. And there's a lot of people building Bitcoin only. And so that makes me super bullish that even though there's been significant network effects over there, people are building Bitcoin only, and it's like crowdfunding and digital game assets like Infinite Fleet on Liquid Network, and Scarcity is an auction platform to be able to buy and sell art with a Lightning Network. There's tons of stuff, man. Impervious AI. Like,
and let's not forget that like Bitcoin only companies are a relatively, like, since altcoins have existed, Bitcoin only companies are a relatively new phenomenon. Like when I joined and worked for Bull Bitcoin in Canada, and they announced like, hey, we're coming out and we're going to be like a Canadian exchange, and we're literally only doing Bitcoin, like in the midst of like altcoin mania coming out of the 2017 bubble, people were like, are you insane? Only Bitcoin. And it was like this unprecedented move to go and do that. And now you hear like, oh, there's a Bitcoin only company, that you're like, okay, yeah, makes sense. Cool. Awesome. I totally agree with you, where it's moving that direction. Like we had that time, and don't get me wrong, all coins aren't going to be going anywhere for a while. It's just going to be kind of a revolving door of the new flavor of the week. It'll be just the flavor of the cycle, is basically how it's going to go. But yeah, I think there will be moves. There will be lots of awesome stuff built on top of Bitcoin. And I think that whatever the preeminent narrative of a particular cycle is, that's what gets the attention, if it's even needed, for the next time around. So like scaling FUD leading up to 2017, look now. Like I use Lightning Network literally every day. It's not perfect. It's, it takes more learning than, Bitcoin on chain, but you can use it relatively simply now comparatively to, 2017, it didn't exist. So that leap over this single cycle was pretty profound. Right now, a lot of concerns around privacy, so that's one of them. And then, as much as a lot of Bitcoiners may not find use in them, having some type of stable coin, there are people around the world that need that functionality in some way, shape, or form, and maybe don't want the volatility for their day-to-day storing their money so that they can pay their bills later on. So having some access to like a US dollar on a permissionless network, something like Taro can be useful for a lot of people. And when the point comes where people might prefer to hold their wealth in Bitcoin, they're already using it. So it's just as simple.
And
as
even like Liquid Network for something like USDT, like you don't need absolute permissionlessness and decentralization to hold a stable coin, because it's just dollars in somebody else's bank account anyways.
Yeah.
So something like the Liquid Network just gives you the ability to have like a Bitcoin native coin, like dollar, until sats become a stable coin, which is like, maybe 2030 or something. Then people do need to have these types of things. And like, if we're going digital, like a lot of Bitcoiners kind of resist some of these concepts, like digital game items and like NFT art or whatever. It's just like collectibles. It's just, if we're going digital, if everything is going digital, it does make sense that you would want to have your Starbucks points in your Bitcoin wallet, or your stocks, in your Bitcoin wallet. And it doesn't have to be as permissionless and decentralized as the base layer Bitcoin. So you can have like a wallet with multiple Bitcoin layers on it, like liquid tokens and Tari assets and whatever. That can be that is being built, which is exciting to see. Lots of teams starting to build out there and funding go towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, gentlemen, I'm going to start rounding this out here. What I want to do before we wrap this up is I'm just going to get any final thoughts from either of you, and also maybe if you have a recommendation of a piece of content, something to look at, something to read, something to watch that has maybe helped you through your Bitcoin journey, I'll grab that from you as well. So maybe Nick, I'll go to you first. Any final thoughts, anything you want to tag on to what Brad has been talking about here, and then any recommendation you may have?
Brad, that was a great rant, man. Really, because there's so much to take away from like we talked about behavior, the behavior of investors, both the ones that are going to stick around and the ones that are going to leave during the bear market phase. And you broke it down really well. So I'm going to definitely be stealing a couple of those things that you said for articles, but it really is because it's all about seeing the people give up that were confused about what they were here for in the first place is part of Bitcoin cycles. I mean, it's absolutely, it's a fixture of it. So yeah, I appreciated that a lot. So yeah, and to wrap on my side, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you guys and to speak to your audience, because I think there are a lot of narratives out there in Bitcoin. We talked about maximalism. We talked about money printer go burr. There's so many narratives, but there's a ton of nuance to each narrative. So my goal is to break down some of that stuff. And, that's what I'm doing over at the Bitcoin Layer. I'm going to plug my own content. It's going to be the Bitcoin Layer YouTube channel. That's what I'm focused on right now, is helping people build out a framework for investing. So my latest video, I talk about the world economy as a global economic watch with these 200 moving parts in it. And what my goal with the channel is to break down each one of these moving parts as far as I've learned. I haven't understood how all 200 work together, but I'm working my way through each component of global macro. And I want to break it down for viewers and show this whole flow chart of my framework. It includes the rates market. Bitcoin is a fixture of it now.
Wow, that's cool.
And it's not just the rates market, and it's not just Bitcoin. It's the economy, what I've taken away from price study. And we're going to put it all together in this great flow chart over time. 2 videos a week. Go subscribe. And I'm really excited about this launch. It's going to dovetail nicely with my newsletter, which is more research and analysis, and the YouTube is focused on education.
Awesome. I love that, man. So yeah, if you haven't already on YouTube, go subscribe to the Bitcoin Layer. I already just did, and I'm going to be diving into some of the content. I'm looking forward to actually watching a bunch of this stuff. It looks awesome. So let's toss it over to Brad as well. Any final thoughts, man? Anywhere that, and actually before I do, also check out Nick's book, Layered Money. It's awesome. Pick it up. But Brad, final thoughts and any recommendations of something you think people should check out?
3 things. Like one, I just threw up thing. If you could put that up. So one is I went through Reminiscences of a Stock Operator again recently, and if anybody's interested, like in historical cycles of how markets work. Like, go through that book, listen to it. It's great. This is like my 6th or 7th time going through that book. I go through it every like different cycle, like just to kind of pick up new nuggets. And there's in this recent round of that, I picked up that even in macro bear markets, like what we're seeing right now, where things can look really bad in recessions and potentially war, you can have bullish things happen. So bullishness can come at any point. You know, it can come from stimulus, it can come from sentiment shift, it can come from war spending, whatever. And so things may look dire, but the market can just kind of shift on you. So yeah, like Nick said earlier, just what's the point? If you think Bitcoin's going lower, it's like, what's the point of selling it? Because you don't know. And at any point it could go higher. So like, I'm not selling any Bitcoin. I'm just going to buy more as it goes down. And we're all convicted on Bitcoin for long term. So I would say, like, it's stressful right now to be holding Bitcoin, especially if it's a majority of your net worth. But the other thing is, let's come hang out with us on Clubhouse. Like, we're on Clubhouse 24/7, literally. Like, there's a hardcore group of Bitcoiners that have been on Clubhouse for like the last 2 years, and we talk about macro. We shoot the shit. We talk about random crap. We talk about Bitcoin, obviously, but it's almost like therapy. Like, in a bear market, it's like a way to commiserate with your friends. So if anybody wants to join us on Clubhouse, we're literally like always there chatting and having fun, joking around. Sometimes we bust each other's balls and stuff, but great place to kind of hang out if you want to join us. Just Cafe Bitcoin or Mastering Bitcoin today are the rooms. But
awesome.
That, and then this lastly is Geyser Grants. It's this project that I'm working with, Geyser. They're doing a Bitcoin Lightning Network powered fundraising. This guy Mick and Stelios, they're building out like Bitcoin fundraising, and this is like where I want to kind of put some energy towards it being like the kind of like social layer for Bitcoin during the bear market. So if anybody has any interest in funding people that are doing stuff for Bitcoin culture, like artists and podcasts and books and people like BTC Sessions, hopefully you can throw up a Geyser there. And like, you're creating content, you're contributing to Bitcoin culture. We don't do enough of a good job as Bitcoiners to like group together and support each other. Like, even though there's tons of people supporting each other in Bitcoin, the crypto people have put way more energy into like weaponizing that energy. And so like, we're trying to weaponize that energy now of Bitcoin culture and contributing to Bitcoin culture. And while we don't have a pre-mine like Ethereum Foundation has with Gitcoin to be able to just give free money out to pay people to shill ETH on Twitter, we do attract some funding from anonymous Bitcoiners, just like Bitcoin Beach. There was an anonymous Bitcoiner that donated. There's same with like Human Rights Foundation and OpenSats. We got 3 Bitcoin already in this thing. So we got 3 grants open right now. So if you're somebody doing Bitcoin education, or if you're building a Bitcoin business, or doing anything for Bitcoin culture, like art or music, if you got like a rap song or like a heavy metal band or whatever, and trying to build some Bitcoin tunes, just submit to this, and come and check out Geyser, and keep watching Geyser, because I think it's going to be a super important place for us to make Bitcoin socially more coalesced.
Awesome. I love it, man. I'll be sharing that around. I anything to help fund and the creation of more Bitcoin related education, content, resources, all that kind of stuff. I love to see it. So with that, I will round it out. Guys, I thank you so much for spending time with me Friday evening, and thanks to Tomer as well. But yeah, I really appreciate both your time. And you're welcome back anytime as well.
Thanks, Ben. Good
Awesome.
to see you, Brad, as well. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks,
All
Ben.
Right. Cheers, guys. Thanks
Happy Canada Day, eh?
You too, man. Talk to you soon. Awesome. All right. And everybody watching, thank you so much for being here. If you're in Canada, of course, happy Canada Day. Hope you're having a good one. I will be seeing you again. I'm heading to BC soon. I'm going to be in Vancouver, and I'm running my workshop on July 16th. So I've got a beginner workshop first thing in the morning from 9 to 12 that day, all about self-custody. And then in the afternoon, I'm doing a deep dive on this bad boy, the cold card. So I have closed ticket sales, but if you're still looking, you can always shoot me a DM and I can see what I can do. I doubt that I'd be able to get a cold card delivered to myself to bring to the event. But if you have one already, or if you want to order one yourself and then come to the workshop, then that might be possible. So with that, I'm going to round it out. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like, subscribe, share, all those things. Super helpful. They really do help the show and get it in front of more eyeballs. If you want to help the show in another way, you can hit the sponsors down below. Shakepay, LEDN, Bitrefill, Keystone, BillFodl. They're all down here. If you really liked what you saw, you can always drop me a Bitcoin tip at my Strike page, strike.me/BTC sessions. You get there, type in any amount you like, hit the tip button. You'll see a Lightning invoice, or if you prefer, tap the arrow to the right. You'll see a regular Bitcoin QR code. With that, I'm out. Have yourselves a wonderful day or evening. See you guys next time for your daily session.
Hodl the Bitcoin.